Welcome to Flex That Works, a podcast for anyone building, managing, or growing a flexible workspace without making things more complicated than they need to be. If you're running a single co-working space, juggling multiple locations, or overseeing a growing network of spaces across towns or cities, this is your space. It's for the operators, the managers, decision makers, the people doing the work to make these places run. This is Flex That Works, scaling your workspace made simpler and less stressful. See you in the episode. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Flex That Works, the podcast from Baseworks, designed by operators for operators of co-working spaces. So today I am joined by Clarke, CEO of Baseworks. We are going to have a chat about PropTech London. It was an event that took place recently in London. We travelled over to it and we said we would have a chat to share some of the insights that we feel are relevant to co-working space operators, landlords, tenants, all of the above. Graham, how are you doing?
Good. Very good now.
Excellent. So I think today people who are listening can expect to hear about the trends that we saw discussed, because there were about 6 stages with full programs for the entire 2 days. It was absolutely jam-packed in terms of content. There were multiple different streams of topics. We're going to chat through sustainability. We're going to chat through smart spaces, the role of AI and tech, the reality of what we see actually coming through versus what's kind of just been, I suppose, talked about at this stage, but we're not actually seeing it in the market just yet. And also what you probably want to have on your radar if you are a tenant and running a co-working space, or if you own the building yourself. Anything that you'd add to that, Graham, that you think we can promise our listeners that they'll hear about today?
No, in fairness, it was a very well run event. Lots and lots of people at it, and 3 floors, like jam-packed, as you said. And I thought it was very well structured in that you had industrial, residential, and also, commercial. So you got a really broad understanding of, I suppose, the technology that's coming down the line for all of those segments within real estate.
Which trends from PropTech London felt most relevant to co-working and flex operators, do you think?
I think the key piece was kind of autonomous facility management. And you had that thing where you have all these sensors and hardwares collecting all this like reams and reams of data. Have softwares with a bit of AI can translate that into operating the space in a more efficient manner. And I think that was the key thing for me. It was at one stage you're talking to somebody that has, a piece of hardware. Next piece you're talking to somebody who has the software that talks to the hardware. And so it's a kind of all-encompassing facility management piece. And it's just, it all came down to like hyper efficient running of a building or a space or a floor or whatever it may be. And that was the key thing for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Even though there were 6 stages across, industrial, residential, there's one on sustainability. What else was there topic-wise?
Lots of AI, as I said.
So
community
across
would have been talked.
Community, yeah. So across all those stages and all those topics, I think the number one thing that, the theme in general across all of them was measurement. Measurement and efficiency, and then how AI is enabling us to do it. I was surprised, I suppose we'll chat in a minute about kind of startups and what kind of tech that we actually saw there that's already available and in the market versus just the hypothetical stuff that we were talking about as well and we heard discussed on the panels. But like the level, I suppose, of measurement that's maybe already there, and then what's kind of on the horizon. And of course we had our co-working hats on, right? So we were thinking they're talking about this level of measurement just across buildings and complexes of buildings in large cities and rural areas. And we were there thinking, right, what does that mean for an operator who has like 1 floor of said building, and how is that going to impact their day to day?
We're talking about measurement from the sensors, but I think the key thing that I came out was the ability to, make sense of all of that data. Like you had everything. I think one of the things was cameras, to be able to recognize visual movements, heat maps, all that kind of stuff, so you can restructure the floor to again make sure that every square foot is used.
Yeah, so let's dive into the tech. So because of course, again, these panels also are often our future kind of looking. So it's, there's often a lot of talk about what will happen, what AI will be doing. One of the talks I enjoyed in particular was like, what's actually here already? What's the reality of it? From what I could hear, it seems to be a lot of chat GPT that's been customized to work for particular spaces rather than like robust, meaningful kind of AI offerings on the market just yet. I think we're still kind of early days for that. But there are still a lot of people who are kind of innovating, regardless of what, be it that they're landlords or operators. People are definitely being creative about the ways that they can bring AI into their day-to-day operations. For you, because we took a look around as well, obviously those 2 floors of companies with stands showing off their latest and greatest wares, which was great to see the new tech that's out and about. What kind of stood out for you out of the companies that we walked around?
Water. And I know we're going to get into it later about optimizing like the environment for people, but the one that I thought was like very, like, I wouldn't say simple, but like just the ability to, again, optimize your water offering. So you can rock up, stick your bottle under this tap sparkling. Next thing, you're adjusting the flavors, lime, dial up the mango, dial down the blackcurrant, and then you can add electrolytes. There you go. You can't get that from your tap at home. So that, I just thought there was a couple of stands doing that, which I thought was very interesting. And to be honest, when I asked prices, stuff like that, I didn't think any of them were outlandish. So definitely something I think could be a nice addition to a co-working space to come back around that. One of the other ones then was around the other key things that I would apply to co-working were the kind of space monitoring. 2 key things that you'll always battle with as a manager is maintenance and cleaning, right? So generally you'll have a cleaner that will come in at a set time every week at a set routine and all that kind of good stuff. And then you have a maintenance person that's generally called when there's an issue. What we're starting to see now is, sensors, camera, and everything else where they can actually analyze the images, and depending on what the image, the AI reads from the image, it'll actually send the email directly to the maintenance crew, or it'll send a note to the manager saying someone's left their laptop on a desk, it's actually unlocked, this is a security issue. Or it could be as simple as someone's left the room in an absolute mess, go in and tidy that up before your next meeting that happens at 2:00. And then there's other things. I mean, as you said, like a lot of it was like, the great thing about the world we live in now is that nothing is beyond the realms of belief. When it comes to nothing was surprising. If it was all interesting, but nothing actually blew me away. Wow, that is amazing. Because we're at an absolute, game changer when it comes to human evolution with the advent of AI. Right? So, there were the 2 things for me that kind of they'd be pretty cool in a co-working space. As a manager, it now means that you have cleaning on spec. You can get stay on top of things, and stuff is maintained in a more efficient manner as well. So stuff doesn't get away from you, which we often come back to that with co-working. Is there's so many balls in the air, so many hats on, all that kind of stuff. This just keeps these balls on the ground basically, so you can deal with them on a very management way.
Yeah, the sensors one I thought was pretty effective because one thing I see alright in co-working spaces is like the reality in the day-to-day of, I suppose, how close clients and the space manager are in the day-to-day, be it hot deskers who are in for a day or maybe members who are in with you all the time in a closed door office, even more so closed door office because they might see you a little bit less. You might just have one member of staff in the building on front reception or something like that, and we were chatting with a company who is putting sensors physically around the space, which you would think that things are moving away from physical hardware, but actually the benefit of them means that if I'm in the kitchen and I scan about coffee, that the coffee beans are running low, you get this real-time feedback and you can actually take action immediately as the operator. The location where it took place, even if I don't need to stand there until you come in and show you what's wrong. I can just tag that I was at this location, quick line about what the issue is or what's missing or what needs to be fixed. You might want somebody to let you know if there's water flowing down the corridor or something. They can tag it and go back to their desk and get back to work. And you've got that note there to fire onto whoever is relevant on your team. be it facilities and we have days here, in our co-working space where the typical person who you would go to might not be here. They might be on a training day, or they might be out promoting the space somewhere. Whereas you've got this like central way of being sure, then rest assured everything's always taken care of at all times, if you like, because there's a process and a system behind it. So I thought that was pretty powerful. You would think that is something that's already there, but actually I think that's definitely one gap between space managers and members in the day-to-day, and I saw that offering just closing that gap.
Yeah, and I think you're right there. Like the ability to provide feedback before it becomes a complaint is great. We all like to be heard. So like, I think we're all susceptible of seeing something that may not please us and muttering under our breath about it. And then, a week later we see the same thing, we mutter again. By giving people the opportunity to actually, tap a bit of feedback in and see that it's been tended to. Sometimes we just want to be heard, right? Or know that we've been listened to. So yeah, no, that was good to see as well.
Yeah, I guess that's another way of using it as well. I was thinking more like real time, something's wrong. Yeah. The manager probably wants to know about it, but that's true too. More kind of course to do. Yeah. Latent feedback.
This is it, and like sometimes as humans we probably flag something when it's a little too late. Did you notice that? And like you get like, from a manager or whoever it may be, geez, why didn't you say that to me sooner? I would have got it dealt with. You can't. So having that ability to keep managers are always happy to help, always happy to deal with things before they become major issues. And again, everyone's winning then. So I just thought that was pretty good. And again, task management, and they know that they're taking boxes and keeping everybody happy as well. And then it does create that open dialogue, that ability to feel that you're heard, essentially, and it's good for everybody.
Yeah. Something that I enjoyed hearing a discussion on as well was a space in central London, right, where they're managing multiple massive buildings. It's a huge complex, right? And they have co-working in 3 of the buildings, and they went for 3 separate franchises, shall we say, of large brands across the complex. And I had a chat with the property manager for the whole complex, and I was asking him how this talk all about sustainability was going to actually impact the operators of those spaces. Because the nature of running a big complex means they'll probably choose to partner with a big co-working brand to come in. Mm-hmm. And then when those brands come in, we talked about the fact that those brands actually have really locked in suppliers and providers and processes and systems. So they already know who they're going to have on their booking and billing. They already know who they're going to have on every step of their process. So when you're trying to bring in new tech, if those space providers, so that guy is managing property across corporate offices, across co-working, they've got transport underground running through their space that they're responsible for. They've got childcare in there. They've got loads of different functions. They've got residential. They've got loads within the complex. He was actually speaking over 2 separate complexes in central London. And I was asking him how it was going to roll down, like any decisions they took at a high level about sustainability and measurements and efficiencies across the buildings. How was that going to actually roll down in a practical way to the operators and the people who were taking those spaces? Because like we all know, a big brand is so locked in on their process and systems. Like it takes quite a bit for them to shift and bring things in. And it obviously needs to be meaningful before you approach your tenants and ask them to make a shift in their day-to-day. So, that process of actually testing this stuff out first, making sure you've pitched the right provider and the right software and everything before you actually roll out a program around sustainability. Interestingly, his answer to me was like, the thing is, based on their approach, they pretty much just give that space to the operators to run and make profitable. It's up to them what happens within that space. And they would probably weigh up whether it's worth it to them to have a clear view of what's going on in that space before they would do that. So I think any operators or flex workers who are renting space in a larger building can probably rest assured a little bit that they're not going to have a landlord knocking at their door, kind of asking them to experiment around the sustainability thing and the measurement thing until they know it's worth it to the footprint of the building. Because typically like these operators just have 1 floor out of multiple. So I thought it was good news for people who are running a space that the landlords and the property managers seem to be more focused on getting a level of sustainability and efficiency read across all their buildings first before they're like forcing kind of minute changes, we'll say, within each of the floors.
Yeah. But that's the thing about, you know, sustainability and the green agenda and all that. You have a couple of things coming in there. So you'll have regulation will obviously drive a lot of that in one sense. But the easiest way to get anybody to adopt anything green is, or even sustainable, is if you can prove that money talks, basically. If you can prove that it's going to make things cheaper and more efficient, that's the easiest way to get people to buy in to all of that kind of good stuff. So the question I'd have there is, like, is he gonna, if there is going to be savings on the building, is he going to pass that on to his tenants or the operators, whoever it would be? But again, that's probably a conversation for another day. I suppose, yeah, of the talks you were at, like the one aha moment you had when you were sitting in a room listening to somebody, was there any kind of standout comment or quote from the whole thing?
I enjoyed, there was two things for me. One was there was an operator there who was sharing how she has started really paying attention to people's working styles and making sure that her space is tailored to people's working styles. So she mentioned like ADHD, alternate kind of learning patterns and therefore working patterns, what works well for some people when they're doing focused work, how some people want to be able to go into work, stand up and get a coffee and not be spoken to. A really good example she gave was they have a floor where they know people want to stay in the zone, shall we say, during focused work. So they actually put in a kitchenette on their floor near their desks so that those people wouldn't have to break away from the computer and go into the kitchen where people would probably start talking to them, and they would potentially still be sitting there 2 hours later having conversation, because that's just the way their brains work. Yeah. And if they switched flow, they would then go totally into like conversational outgoing flow, and they might not get back into the work they had been doing at their desk, you know. And that was a really good one. And the other one that I noticed was I had a bit of an over and back with a panel that was talking about the element of hospitality in co-working. So there was people on that panel who wouldn't have been co-working specifically. One was a hotel chain and the other was working for this digital twin aspect of things, whereby if you're promoting and selling your space, his takeaway was how the next generation are going to want to take decisions for what they book and buy based on almost a real life experience of it before they choose. So they're going to want to see the whole thing fully mapped out, as in a 360 view of something, true to dimensions and everything, and see the desk they're going to get, see if it's by a window, see how far away the stairwell is, whatever the case might be. And that's what they're going to take their purchasing decisions on if they're booking an office or a desk with you. And they won't even get on to you to book a tour or anything. They're just going to want to be able to see all of that first themselves before they book. And on that same panel with the hospitality, so his aspect was he was actually looking at residential and people taking, renting maybe hotel rooms or apartments, Airbnbs, that type of thing. And that's something coming down the track that expect that to happen if you're looking to sell space. So I could see that imprinting onto co-working. And then there was an actual operator of a co-working space there talking about how all those little tweaks in the space just keep increasing, I guess, was what I took from what he was saying, you know. And what really struck me when I was sitting there was like, we just sound kind of bratty at this stage. Like, it's like optimizing for the sake of it almost. Like, to your point about water and mango and electrolytes, like, it's gorgeous, it's amazing, I love it. But like, at the end of the day, aren't we in there for emails, you know? So it's kind of like, to what extent, and listen, it's hand in hand with brand, like we've said many times before, like in terms of like deciding how much to kind of optimize your own space, I guess, just depends on being in line with what your members are looking for. If you're a closed club membership, those are the things that are going to give you the edge, and then there's other types of spaces where it just doesn't fit at all. But I guess having a sense then, the relevance to that in PropTech in terms of the overall event then was like selecting your location, renting a building that fits that model. So like down to the water machines, people aren't surprised. You know, you're not down some back alley and then you've got this like 5-star experience, you know what I mean? So it all connects together. But there was definitely areas where the use of the tech was kind of mapping onto the different spaces. And I can see operators who were really forward thinking already. Because that lady describing like the kitchenette for people who are in that focused workflow, you can see how she's already been so close
Yeah.
to people. So like we're all there sitting talking about AI and tech, but the insights that I took away from the event were human driven, you know,
Yeah.
because humans are paying attention. So my overall was like, all of this is amazing. And what it's still doing is enabling you to have more time to tend to your members in a human way, you know?
I'd agree with you. And she was class, actually. I really enjoyed her. She was probably the only person over the 2 days that mentioned working styles, neurodiversity, and all of that kind of good, all that kind of stuff. Like we touched on it before in the, every space and every team, every company, you know, is made up of it's made up of different styles of work, different approaches to work, different, as you were saying, techies like to throw the headphones on. And I'm being very stereotypical. I like to throw the headphones on and get some focus work on. Salespeople are generally chatty and on the phone and outgoing and all of that kind of stuff. But they're all on the same team and in the same company, but working environments could be totally different in order to get the best out of them and the roles they do. And that I think is where, software and tech is probably, I didn't see anybody doing that there. It was all facilities, it was all, and again, look, PropTech, but with the focus on optimizing the environment for, the worker. I didn't see any way of measuring that productivity. I didn't see anybody that had a piece of kit that would say, well, Tom is this style of worker, this is his role, this is what he likes to do, this is how he behaves, these are the days he likes to come in, and this is, identify when Tom is at his most productive. I didn't see anybody doing that, and I think, I think that's probably another chat for another day, but wouldn't it be amazing to tie up optimizing the environment, but then optimizing it for a specific worker type or even person. So when you walk into a meeting room, all of a sudden the lights dim, they go to a temperature that you like working within, rather than just kind of and we'll get there, I'm sure. But yeah, just to see and listen to her, she was like a human monitor measurement. She kind of paid so much attention to how people moved around her space. I don't think she needs sensors, I think, but she was brilliant. I really enjoyed her.
Yeah, and look, to be fair, it was PropTech London. I think those productivity conversations probably would be happening in different rooms, But I definitely saw so much value from being there for the 2 days. If somebody didn't attend because they weren't sure whether it would be relevant to them or not, I would suggest being in the room in the future, because there were an awful lot of people there. 3 floors, excellent hospitality. Speaking of, it was a really, really well run event. Very sharp panels and speakers, a very tight agenda was run there. So yeah, I'd actually highly recommend it as an event. Do you think Baseworks will be there in 2026? And if so, what do you think what will we be discussing in 2026 at PropTech London, would you say?
I would say more AI anyway, for sure. I think that's around for I think we hadn't been there last year. I'd say a lot of the conversation last year was post COVID, or RTO, hybrid was probably the topics last year. I'm open to stand to be corrected on that one. I just think I can't see beyond like AI being, and more measurement and other ways of, more ways of extracting value, efficiencies and optimization of the buildings. We'll definitely go back to see what's coming down the road for sure. Because again, you have these large asset owners, these are large landlords that, as you said, like they have massive buildings. Coworking is just a floor above the coffee shop that might be downstairs in a lot of instances. So you would hope to see a lot of this permeate down the track and turn up in more and more co-working spaces. Because again, look, co-working, it needs to become more profitable, and with things like this, sure, it's going to make things a lot easier. And to your point, if you have a building that effectively runs a lot of what needs to be run itself, it allows you to focus on the fun stuff, which is people, community, hospitality, all the stuff that again earns the commute basically, as I picked up, and puts that, I'm going to go in there because that's a good place to go. It's not all about the water, I suppose. I kind of touched on that. It has to be a part of a wider offering. But yeah, I think, if you can kind of let the facilities to run themselves and have people manage people, I think we're on for some good stuff, all right, when we get into it.
Yeah, for me, I'd be excited to see what kind of meaningful ways the data has been used. I'm always conscious of us just collecting data for the sake of it almost, and just measuring for the sake of it. It's like this, here's a cool new toy, let me go off and measure. So I'm looking forward to seeing, hopefully in 12 months time, what meaningful AI has emerged, is robust, is standing on its own 2 feet, and it's actually been rolled out across spaces, and we're able to see these solutions working in enough places that we can say it's actually moving the dial a bit for boots on the ground, and for business owners, that they're seeing the impact in their bottom line, or else in a reduction of churn or new members coming in, so that's what I'd be looking forward to.
And I think just to add to that point, like, we've been measuring and monitoring things forever when it comes to buildings. It was what you do with that information. There was so much of it there, and you needed experts to make sense of it. But now you have, a live friend that in AI that can just, draw up these correlations, hypothesize or diagnose and prescribe. So this is where we're at with it, which is, look, it's really exciting. Really, really exciting.
That's exactly it. Yeah, brilliant. All right. Thanks a mil, Graham, for your time today. Thank you for listening to this episode of Baseworks. Do feel free to tune in wherever you get your podcasts. We'd always love to know how this landed. Maybe you are seeing some of these learnings coming through already in your co-working space. Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn, or you can drop a comment wherever you listen. And do feel free to share the episode if you found value in it. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in to Flex That Works. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss our next episode. Connect with us on LinkedIn, watch the full episode on YouTube, and you can explore free tools and resources over at baseworks.co. This is Flex That Works, powered by Baseworks, here to help you scale your workspace, making it simpler and less stressful.